Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Growth Path. We've had a bit of a name change, if people may not have recognized or may have recognized even. We've decided to do a bit of a rebrand. Happens, right? But today I'm super excited to have somebody on the podcast that's got a massive amount of experience, not just in like the leadership side of things when it comes to tech businesses, but also from an investor and advisor perspective. I've got Steve Wietrecki on here. Myself and Steve have worked very close together over the past, I'd say, almost a year now at this point. And Steve has been at companies such as Klaviyo. So back in the past, Steve was the chief revenue officer back in Klaviyo. We're going to touch on that now in a minute. He's been an advisor at companies like Sendoso, which is in the direct mail space. He is now CEO and co-founder at a company called Heuristic, which is currently in the product market fit finding stage. He's also been an early stage investor within that business, but also is an early stage investor at a number of other businesses. So Steve is wearing a number of different hats and sees all the fires burning all at once. And the fun never stops for Steve. So Steve, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Andy. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Hey, look, let's get into let's talk a bit about what you're focused on at the moment is Heuristic. Tell me about what you guys at Heuristic are doing and what the focus is.
Perfect. Yeah. So it really stems from the days that I spent at Klaviyo. We realized that over the last kind of 5 to 10 years, brands have really gotten good at building relationships with their customers through their marketing communications, right? So tools like Klaviyo that allowed you to segment out and understand who your subsets of customers were, allowed you to build a better understanding of how to communicate and build that relationship, much like you would, in the past on retail, brick and mortar, right? Talking way back in the old days where everyone knew each other at the counter. When I got introduced to the team at Heuristic and saw the opportunity, we kind of put two and two together. They were coming primarily from the product management space. I was coming more from the kind of the customer and customer data space. And we saw this opportunity to kind of combine what we did at Klaviyo and bring that knowledge to the actual website. Because what was happening is you really start to build these personalized relationships with people in those comms, but the minute you delivered them back to your store, you'd end up losing that context. And people a lot of times were like, well, hey, you were talking to me one way in comms, and now it suddenly feels like you don't know me anymore, or you're looking for me to wade through kind of the least personalized and the least targeted pieces of the experience. So we see a huge opportunity to kind of expand what you were doing and all of the gains that happened in the past 5 to 10 years in marketing comms and really bring that into your store and into the overall experience.
Excellent. And how's it going so far?
Good. It's still, as you mentioned, we're in the product fit stage. So I like this stage in a business. It's a point where you're starting to engage with customers with a real offering. Not only are they discovering the value that and validating the value that we thought we would bring, but it's also a time of exploration to discover new opportunities that we hadn't even thought of, new avenues to explore. We're constantly working with our user base on ways to improve not only their experience using the product, but also ultimately the experiences they're driving. And it's been an interesting experience over the last couple of months of seeing all of that come together, particularly where it matters in the results for these brands, to be able to take those gains that they saw with a tool like Klaviyo and the revenue it generated and be able to continue those gains by improving their on-site experience.
Excellent. It's funny you've mentioned the word Klaviyo a number of times now. I'm going to ask you another question in relation to Heuristic, but Klaviyo, I think this is a podcast where you're going to hear how Klaviyo is actually said, right? I spoke with two people today that kept on saying Klaviyo, and after speaking with you for so long, the ex-chief revenue officer Klaviyo, I'm like, it's fucking Klaviyo, it's not Klaviyo. But anyway, I don't know why I have such a strong affiliation to it. That's you, by the way, having that influence on me, I think. But back to Heuristic, right? So this is obviously interesting for you. You came in there as an advisor, or you were on the board. You came in as an investor. Sorry, you're on the board there. You stepped in, taken over the CEO role. How has that transition been for you? Has it been Like, has it been interesting?
It's interesting, right? There's both the professional and the kind of the private side of it. Honestly, I was at a point after I left Klaviyo, gone through the rest of like kind of COVID and came out of that, started to really focus on taking all of this great learnings over the last 30 years and applying it to helping small entrepreneur founders, which is something that I've done through the years as an operator, in a new role as an investor, right? And what does that mean? What's the differences when I get engaged? To be there to help them try to think through problems and avoid situations rather than coming in later as the operator and frankly trying to clean up a lot of those things. So that was fun. And then this kind of evolved into an opportunity to come in and actually start to drive the things we had been talking about at the board for the last couple of years in a more meaningful day-to-day operational role. And so working with the team and kind of getting us to this testing phase of really that design partner phase, if you will, has been fantastic.
There's been like something that you introduced to me the first time. I think it was actually the first time that we spoke over the phone almost a year ago now at this point. And you said to me, "Hey, look, Andy, I just want to figure out if this dog will hunt." Right, and that to me was like, you're good with analogies generally. I'll give you that much, right? I don't know if you've heard this in your personal life or whatever, people behind the scenes, but generally, I think like you're very, very good with analogies. But I love that analogy of like, will this dog hunt? So tell me a little bit about like that mentality and how you look at that as with an investor hat going across numerous portfolio companies.
I think it's a great question. And it's one of these that I think it's hard to describe, but I'm going to give it a shot here, right? Throughout my entire career, as you join different size companies at different stages, facing different kind of challenges and opportunities, I am always, and I believe everyone should be trying to break this down into understanding what's going to propel the business, where those opportunities lie, what are the risks. In some ways, if you wanted to go back and get business schooly and MBA-ish, you could talk about it's like a SWOT analysis type of thing, right? But in reality and in practice, it's more like you have this theory, a series of theories, and some of the parts of those theories are more important than others. And the culmination of the serious ones come together is like, once you finally launch this thing, will this dog actually go and perform? Like, as I said, will the dog hunt? Will the business perform the way you think it does? So, there's some great books out there on product market fit and product design and product management. That really help you to kind of focus in on taking that thought process you have of what's valuable and then taking it into the general marketplace, having it tested, having it literally beat up by users who don't have the same myopic focus you do not have the understanding of the product you do, and approach it as a piece of their everyday life, right? And how does it fit in the real world? And it's that clash. And does the product survive that clash and continue to grow and deliver more and more value for those customers? Or does it not stand the test and just fail, right? And sometimes that process is really fast. Sometimes it's slow. But I've come to call it, hey, we're here to see if this dog hunts, because in the end, if the dog doesn't hunt, then we don't have what we started out for.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's so your way of thinking, having worked with you very closely over the past year, is like you try to keep things as simple as possible, and that's why I like your analogies generally, because it puts it into a setting which people can easily digest and easily understand. Right? That's obviously something that a skill that you've honed in on, but I guess it comes naturally to you as well, because I've heard many analogies. The dog, will this dog hunt, is one of them, but many others, and they never miss the mark. So I'll give you that much. They never miss the mark.
I appreciate that. And I would add, right, I think what's important here, because I've seen this be very effective with, if not every team, almost every team I've worked with, is an ability to paint a picture, right? You just don't give tasks out to people, right? People have to understand how their actions fit within a broader context. In a lot of ways, an analogy is the best way to describe that to them. Because if you can bring something that they already understand, like works and how it may work, and then pull the comparison to what we're trying to do, it just gives them something after you're not sitting in front of them and talking to them to go back to and actually, reference as they're going through this.
Amazing. Another one that you have that really resonated with me as well is the gas line, the give a shit line, right? So tell me a little bit about the give a shit line. Let our listeners know what that is.
So the listeners understand. Andy helped me launch my podcast. It's called The Gas Line: Giving a Shit in E-commerce, Business, and Life, and it stemmed from this phrase that I was using internally, particularly here at Heuristic, with the team about it's not just about getting results, right? Results are great, and early on when I was on the board only and looking into things, I was trying to relate to them that just because you have a positive ROI doesn't mean that it stacks up favorably to the umpteen number of other opportunities that this brand can choose to pursue, right? So what you're trying to do is have an impact above what I call the give a shit line. The problem is the give a shit line for any particular solution, any particular approach, anything, your strategy can be different. It can differ brand to brand. It can differ within a brand, all depending on what you're trying to do. So much like the dog hunting, this is an exploratory process. This is what makes this whole thing fun, right? It's really like you're out there and there are no set guides, set, hard rules that you need to follow. It's an exploratory process. And in the sense of the gas line, and using that analogy, it's like you have to get the customer, or your product needs to get the customer, your solution, above this give a shit line to where they're actually like, wow. And if you can really get them above the give a shit line, you end up in a situation like we were, and I think you're going to get into this a little bit more, but I'll pull it in now, at Klaviyo, where our biggest asset was the fact that our existing customers would go tell their friends proactively that you have to use Klaviyo. It was not uncommon for us to hear, hey, my friend Sue told me that I needed to call you guys. I don't know what you do, but she says you make her a lot of money. And those are great calls to be fielding as a BDR and AE, right?
100%. Those things are few and far between. Jesus Christ.
Uber give a shit line.
Yeah. So let's go. So you just mentioned that because my next question was going to be is like a dog that did hunt and also went past the give a shit line was Klaviyo, right? So you were at Klaviyo. So for when you joined Klaviyo, what was the revenue? You joined 2017, right? Or was it before that?
Roughly-ish 20 million.
20 million. And you left there 2021, right?
I left, yes.
Fully operational role left there from 2021, right? Yeah. What was the revenue growth in that time?
It scaled in that period to north of 250 on the way to 300.
That's incredible growth, like insane growth, right? So you've gone from 20 million annual recurring to almost 200 or to almost 300 annual recurring, 300 million that is, right? Annual recurring revenue. Let's talk about that time a little bit, right? So where do I start even? Okay, so how do you go from that 20 to 100 even? So you were a chief revenue officer, so a lot of that fell on your desk, right? So you went from 20 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 150, 150 to 200, and then beyond, right? You're taking those valleys, and SaaS has those valleys of debt, that you die in, right? And 99% of companies will die there in that 50 to 100, even if they make it to that 50, right? But you were lucky to do that. So tell me a little bit about I'm less interested about the things that you did to grow. There was a great product market fit, etc. But how was it for you? Because you needed to grow, right? You needed to learn. It's not the same job going from 20 to 50 as it is to 50 to 100, right? And beyond. So tell me a little bit of how you grew during that time.
I think that's a great question. I think that the evolving part of the role for that particular period of growth in a company stems from the first 3 to 6 months of assessment as to what are the levers of scale, particularly around three particular areas that I was responsible for: sales, marketing, and business development, right? Partnerships. And each of those, we identified those levers, and we quickly started to build out a team that would allow us to scale and scale at the pace that we wanted to. We were able to maintain a lot of flexibility. So team became very important. Who do you select? You know, when we onboarded the team, had an eye to the future. We always knew, if you listen to Klaviyo today, it's the same as it was before. We only consider ourselves 1% done at any point in time. And so there's this notion of getting the team aligned. And I'll give you a little bit about that. There was a couple of times, one in particular I remember, where I got the entire go-to-market team together and invited the rest of the business to participate if they wanted to. But it was important to talk about the nature of change, right? And I remembered this book way back from when I was first starting out, which makes it an ancient book. It was called "Who Moved My Cheese?"
The Bible. No, I'm joking.
The Bible, yeah, you would think. And in the Aramaic version. But no, it was a book called "Who Moved My Cheese?"
First Testament.
And we went through the story of this book. It's a little cute book. It's still available on Amazon if you want to check it out. It's a story about two people and two mice and how they cope with change in this maze and the like. And using, again, analogies or parables, if you will, to really reinforce that the only thing that was going to be constant at the business was change. And you needed to get comfortable with that. Because if you didn't, you would quickly find yourself in a very uncomfortable spot, right? And I think those sort of fundamental or foundational pauses that we took to ensure that the team understood and helped to build trust, helped to build credibility. It gave them some level of visibility, even though we didn't know what the change was. We knew enough to tell them change will always be coming, so be prepared for this. And it made it easier and the organization more pliable to take advantage of opportunities and to address challenges as they came along in that growth. That growth happened from a multi-vectored perspective. We did a lot in partnerships in that time to grow what is now known as a world-class partnership organization and program, right? One where our agency partners are true partners to the business and feel invested in a piece of what we're doing. On the marketing side, how we engaged, and on the sales side, frankly, how we continue to grow. And that's an interesting one too. So if you want to talk about this level of scale, what we realized is if we could develop a system where we were bringing people in at the kind of BDR level, right? Where we can mold them in the way we think about it and create a classes of people that would then make their way through the system from BDR to product specialist to AE1 to AE2 to AE3. We had a lot of flexibility in moving people through the system and expanding that team and keeping the institutional knowledge and building that institutional knowledge over time that helps us to more rapidly bring on new candidates in the beginning. And that became very important. It was by design very early on and produced tremendous results in terms of being able to scale the team out to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, but that's like a greenfield approach, right? You start from the grassroots approach. You start building from the ground up. You enable people to find opportunities within the business. You invest in the people that you have. That's a problem that a lot of organizations make that are scaling at that rate. They hire really badly, first of all. Then they have this like firing mentality. If I get rid of somebody, it's fine. I'll just find somebody to replace them real quick, which can happen. To your point on change, right? You're going to see people come and go during that change because the organization at 20 million is going to be very different to the organization that existed at 10 million. The organization at 50 million is completely different to how it was at 20 million, and so on and so forth, right? And people don't want to be part of the ride then. People enjoy the 20 million business as opposed to how things are at the 50 million business. It's inevitable, right? But it's really interesting. Tell me, what was the name of that book again, Steve?
It's called Who Moved My Cheese?
Who Moved My Cheese? I love it. Okay. And tell me, so we were speaking about this yesterday. So Steve and I caught up yesterday, and you were telling me you've got two daughters, right? If you don't mind me saying, and they're both early 20s now. When you were going through that massive phase, that was in their teenage years, right? So like there was obviously at home, it probably wasn't too easy for you, because trying to run a business from 20 million to essentially 10x in a business, right? And a lot of that weight lies on your shoulders. How was that for you personally? Did you miss out on a lot? How was it?
The way I'll answer that is I think I actually got better in the Klaviyo years than I was before that. I've had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of interesting things. And so I think I learned from those. In particular, one thing that comes to mind, my oldest daughter went to Boston College, so she was right down the road, for example. And while I missed out on a lot earlier in high school and grammar school over this 30-year career, I had the opportunity at Klaviyo to kind of carve out some time. And so Monday nights was dinner with my daughter, right? Everyone knew it. I blocked it off. If meetings were running late, it was the one time I acted with what you see a lot in New York for the train schedule, right? People just getting up in meetings and leaving because they have a train to catch. So on Monday nights, people knew that I wasn't going to be there past 6 o'clock, right? Because I was going to go pick up my daughter. We're going to have dinner every night. And so doing that allowed me to kind of re-engage in a way. I wouldn't ever dare say it made up for some of the time we missed, but it did form like a new sort of aspect to our relationship that continues today, right? She was just down here with us in Florida this weekend, for example. And my other daughter's with us down here now. So I think that finding that balance, and it's not some book where you read about balance and all this, at least not for me, right? Maybe for others, and I get everybody's different. But like for me, it's about just trying to find the right amount of time. And for somebody who enjoys problem solving and enjoyed the challenge of figuring out these kind of tough like situations, particularly on the business side, it's easy to get drawn in and to forget about those around you. And all I can say is you got to build the boundaries, right? You got to figure out what works for you, and then just make a stand.
Yeah. So I'm the same. So I see myself very similar to yourself and how you think probably problem solving like a dog with a bone, right? And it's very hard. Like my wife is trying to drag me out of the office sometimes just because I work from home, she's like, Andy, like, come on, get your head out of the game. And even when I'm at the kitchen table, then the mind is still down in the office, And even my daughter says, Dad, like, where are you? Why do I need to repeat things 2 or 3 times? I'm like, oh shit, okay, I need to get my head in the game here. I have gotten better with it, but similar to yourself, like my kid's much younger than yours, but I found myself in the younger years when she was much younger. I was coming up in my career as well, and there were times I just wasn't here. I had to travel. I was, the travel was the hardest part, right? Being away from the family and my wife having to take on the majority of the work and so on, and trying to deal with that, and then also trying to make sure that you're around for your kid and everything. It's a real balance, and as you said, like there's no one that can teach you how to do it. You just need to figure it out in your own situation, because everybody has different situations at home, whether there's grandparents nearby that are happy to pick up a bit of slack, or whether you have somebody you can lean on, what the school system's like, etc. So there's too many variables. Like there's no one person. It's like somebody telling you like that somebody's not a parent telling you how to be a parent.
Right.
Like it's like fuck off. It's like it's not
Exactly. Something you said that I think might benefit folks, right, to think about. Regardless of who your partner is, because it's one thing I concentrate here to talk about the impact on the kids, right? My wife decided to stay home and be the primary person for the kids, which allowed me the luxury of being overly available at work, if you will. and take opportunities like spend a year down in New York with classmates, right? While they were still back up in Boston. And so I can't say enough the number of times I would proactively tell my wife that she was my active partner, right? That you are a piece of this. You're not taking care of something in the back rooms. It's not my success, it's our success. And you'll get varying answers. At least I got varying answers that, oh no, it's you, it's well, and they're like, no, I keep being very insistent. And I think that was very important that she understood that I appreciated those efforts. And frankly, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't be here talking to you today if it wasn't for the sacrifice and dedication that she showed to this team that we have of having great kids, raising great kids, and having a fulfilling professional life.
I'll actually agree with you on that, because, and even it's not just something that you're saying, because recently you said to me, "Oh, my business partner," and you were referring to your wife. So and then you said my wife's. Oh, there you go. Your wife's also your business partner. So it's actually not just something you say. You actually said it was in a different conversation, and you then said, "Oh, my business partner XYZ, my wife." I was like, "Oh shit, okay, yeah, there you go." So that's a really, really great tip, Steve. Thank you for that. And look, we're right at time now. I think we'll finish on that tip. So thanks a million. Tell me, where can people best find you, Steve? LinkedIn. Where's the best to get you?
LinkedIn is always the best way to kind of get a hold of me. I'm out there and I'm active. So, reach out. Love to chat.
Excellent. I'll make sure that we put your details in the description of this episode. And Steve, thanks a million for your time, mate. It's been, as always, very interesting and a great chat. Yeah.
Always a pleasure, Andy. Happy to do it. You have a great day.
Cheers, Steve. You too. Guys, this has been another episode of Growth Path. Tune in next week for more great content. Thanks again, Steve.
Thanks.